thought they were extinct. They're back. Mutated and far more dangerous.
Welcome to Remember 64, where this week we time travel to slay dinosaurs. Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is David Petrangelo, and I am flying solo this week, at least for this portion of the episode. Luigi, who has joined me as my co-host over the last couple of levels, is away for this week, but he will be back soon, and we'll be covering some more games throughout the next several months. Of course, this week it is time to talk about one of the first shooters ever for the Nintendo 64. That's right, it's time to talk Turok. As always, you can support the show, patreon.com/remember64show. That's where you can get every single episode early, 2, 3, 4, 5 days early sometimes, maybe even a week, depending on when I get the editing done. There you can also get bonus episodes where in between episode releases, I will be letting you know what I'm playing that is not N64 related, and sometimes talking about stuff that I'm watching as well. So most recently, if you see it on our podcast feed, I did give a little taste of what that would be like. 5 to 10 minutes at the most of me just sort of rambling about games and shows that I've been playing and watching, and just something else to share with you there. So patreon.com/remember64show. Okay, let's not waste any more time here. Let's bust out the history books, everyone.
I'm learning.
It's time to head back to March 1997. March 1st, for Canadian listeners out there, Elvis Stojko hits the first quad-triple combination jump in the history of figure skating competition, and he wins the championship series final near his hometown in Hamilton, Ontario. On March 10th, Buffy the Vampire Slayer premieres, and also on the 10th, this device, ask your cooler older cousin or ask your parents about this one, kids, the Palm Pilot is released upon the world. And of course, March 4th, 1997, the release of Tuork Dinosaur Hunter for the Nintendo 64.
I am Turok.
The game was published by Acclaim Entertainment. For anyone who wasn't playing games around this time or in the early 2000s, you may not recognize them, but they're a big name behind ported versions of games like Mortal Kombat and NBA Jam. Those games, of course, originally made by Midway. Also, Acclaim was responsible for a ton of other N64 games like WWF Warzone, NHL, and NFL titles, and the multiple Turok sequels on the console. Iguana Entertainment was purchased by Acclaim, and that's who they pegged to create this original Turok title. And believe it or not, Acclaim itself gobbled up a whole ton of other types of media companies as well, because, if you didn't know this, Turok was based on a comic book series that was published by their own comic book company in the early 90s. This game was initially set to release in late September of 96, just a couple of days after the 64's console launch in North America. But Nintendo and the devs said there were far too many bugs and problems with the game, so they had to delay it to the next year. In total, it was delayed 2 other times. Along the way, Iguana considered making Turok a third-person action game with ideas stemming from Mario 64 and Tomb Raider. Kind of makes sense, but of course, they wanted to have more violence. In a feature article published in Edge magazine, the project manager on the game said they were worried that all the violence would turn off the big N, and they were not too keen on having those types of games on their console, at least not yet. But apparently, despite Turok being one of the very first third-party releases on the Nintendo 64, Nintendo did not interfere at all with the process until its final days of bug testing. Now, this is something we're definitely going to discuss in just a couple seconds here in my discussion with our guest today, but Iguana said that fitting the game on an 8 megabyte cartridge was very difficult. Music, unfortunately, was the first thing to take a hit, but as you are about to hear, we still really enjoyed it. Otherwise, the game was a big step forward in the way it looked and played, and it was constantly praised for both of those. Now, I'm not going to get into it too much this time around. We do have lots of Acclaim titles still to cover on this show, but at this time, they were in financial trouble and hoped Turok Dinosaur Hunter would keep them afloat. Now, It's possible here that their financial troubles may have even been due to the fact that they went all in on this console. They missed the first full year of other 3D systems while they continued the 16-bit output that saw reduced sales. Temporarily, they were right. This did help. It was the 33rd top-selling game on the console, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that still equaled just over 1.5 million units in its lifetime, with re-releases eventually coming out on the Switch and Xbox systems. All right, now I am very excited to bring in our next guest. Let's talk about the game and our memories of it. Okay, of course, as always, it is time to talk about the console and about the game. This week, of course, is Tuork Dinosaur Hunter. And another guest this week. Luigi is off for the week, but he will be back soon. But I am lucky enough to be joined by Nave. Nave, welcome to the show, man.
It's good to be here.
Why don't you let everybody know your stuff on the internet, where they can find it and all that, because it's pretty damn good stuff. It's fun to listen to. I'll tell you that much right now. So why don't we let everybody know what your work is out there?
I'm one half of Gaming Together, a cooperative podcast. We talk about co-op games, new and old. We go as old as Bubble Bobble and as new as Elden Ring. I guess that just dated this podcast, but yeah.
Yeah, but those two games, I don't think they're going to live and die just in 2022 as we record this. So I think that they continue to live on, understandably so. So.
Oh, yeah. And we get a little crazy over there.
Define crazy, because crazy can be fun, right?
Oh, yeah. It's fun, but it's a lot of screaming, a lot of goofy shenanigans.
That's okay. That sounds like a good time. I'll have to bust my way into your podcast door sometime soon too. So I sort of put the word out there when I was starting the show. This is one of the earlier episodes in this podcast, I would say. We're in the first dozen episodes here, and Turok was definitely a game that was on my mind that I wanted to replay and revisit. And when I put a little bit of a call out there for people that want to come on the show as guests, I think you immediately put up your hand and said, "Oh, yeah. I would love to cover Turok," which is great. Like, just enthusiasm about any of these games in general is great. And it was cool that like Turok was kind of in the back of my mind at the same time. So I'm excited to dig into it. I say that as a precursor too, because like I've done with other guests as well, I want to know what your experience was with the N64 before this year. Did you grow up with it? Did a friend have it? Did you have it? Was it a single player experience generally with you? Was Turok one that you found at the time or later? All that kind of stuff. So let's hear from you.
Well, the Nintendo 64 was generally my first console I actually owned as a kid. I'm 28, so I was pretty young. Like, Turok was one of the first games that I actually had as well. And it was so early in my life that I didn't really know how to read. And that greatly affected my ability to play this game because I didn't know what was happening. But I don't want to jump too far ahead, but there are these keys you collect in the levels, and I didn't know what they were. I just thought he was drinking from a cup. So
it looks that way. So in your defense, it looks that way.
Yeah, I thought it was this power juice or something. I didn't understand what was going
on. So the N64 was the first, I guess you'd call it major console that you owned. Were you the like myself, the typical N64 owner? It's Mario Kart, Mario Party, Mario 64, Star Fox. Was that kind of stuff where you seemed to gravitate to, or what was most of your experience?
I didn't really have a family that knew anything about video games too much, so I got Tuork, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and I also had Mario Party, and I think I had a Rugrats game, and that was all I really had for a long time. And I would always just alternate between Tony Hawk and Tuork. Like, I was obsessed with these two games.
Yeah, especially Tony Hawk. I think at that time, and Turok actually would be perfect. I mean, I'm not that much older than you, but it just in general, like if you're anywhere in your 30s now or in your mid to late 20s and you had an N64, something about Turok and especially Tony Hawk games at that time were just like, yeah, this is the cool stuff, man. Like, this is what you want to play. It's kind of perfect for that time.
The elementary school I went to, everybody had a PlayStation too, so I just had no one to talk about Tuork with. But when people would come over, I eventually got Tuork 2 as well, and we would play multiplayer, and it would be everyone would be playing imaginary fighting, and someone would always have the cerebral bore, and we'd be like, "Oh, come on, not that gun, too strong."
Oh, come on, really?
At least 3 times people have come onto our show, either pre-recording or during the recording, and mentioned that they had to look into Tuork 2 because of how enthusiastic I was about the cerebral bore and how ridiculous of a weapon it was.
I remember that as well. And I'm excited to talk about this game and get to the sequels as well. Cause I don't know that I've ever played. I think I've only played the first 2. I don't know that I've ever played any of the other ones, not the GameCube one. I do have 2, I think, for the original Game Boy. It's rough, I'll tell you that much. But it's tough to translate a game like this to a Game Boy, right? So it's definitely a very different game. But yeah, I'm excited to sort of get into that too, because then there'll be multiplayer to talk about and stuff. So that'll be very fun. So before we get to the game itself and us replaying this game recently, not to date the episode too much, but in the Mission Impossible episode, if you look that up, we did a new sort of semi-segment, myself and Luigi, to pull up old Nintendo Power issues and read a few things from issues that are talking about the games themselves, whether they were already out, whether it's a preview, and just sort of, compare feelings now to then. So I thought I would jump into a little bit of Nintendo Power this time. It is issue number 88 from September of 1996. So this is the month that the N64 was released in North America. And they have a very big, anything over 4 or 5 pages, I think, is a fairly big feature in a magazine for one particular game in a preview of a game that hasn't even come out yet, right? So as people may have heard before this, earlier in this episode, the game got delayed a few times. They're really pushing the hardware and the software that they could do with the N64. So in this preview, it says in issue 88 on page 38 that this game is on its way this fall. So this was supposed to be just about a month or 2 before this game came out. And as we know, that did not happen. It came out in 97. But they're very enthusiastic about this game. I'll tell you that much right now. So,
it's weird. If it didn't get delayed, then I might have not. If it didn't get delayed, I might not have actually gotten that game, because I think my dad bought that game because it was like the new hotness.
Sure.
Because I wasn't an early adopter of the N64. It was just
neither was I. I think I got it in 97 as well. So if this came out, middle of 97, like it did, and you got it around that summer or the following fall, like just after it, this is a pretty high selling game, right? So it sold almost, just over 1.5 million or 1.6 million copies. Like that's a decent amount. So yeah, if it's the hotness and it's the shooter at the time, like it's cool. And it's dinosaurs, man. It's cool, right? You're gonna go for it on the shelf no matter what.
It's like this game was made for me.
Yeah, it's made. Yeah, exactly. Jurassic Park is still like the coolest thing ever, and now you're in a game with dinosaurs. It's amazing. I love it. The title across the page says "Bad Times in the Lost World." Speaking of Jurassic Park. So it says Turok Dinosaur Hunter for the N64 steps out of the pages of the Valiant comic books like conquering hero bigger than life, tougher than a squad of nail-chewing Marines, flashier than a nuclear explosion. Is that what you think of when you think of Turok? I don't know.
Flashier than a nuclear explosion. That's an interesting way to put it.
That is an interesting description for any game. It doesn't matter what it is.
I was going to say it's so incredibly violent, but then I thought about this game that we're talking about, and I was like, well, I guess that does make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just goes for it, right? And then titles in here where they talk about the weapons. It says weapons to die for. At this point in the game, it says players survive by collecting even more powerful guns as they progress in the game. They'll drool over an arsenal of weapons similar to Doom. 14 weapons are included in the quote unquote incomplete version that Nintendo had to play with. So, you know, as much as this game was about to come out at the time, they were still ready to really give you a big arsenal of guns, which is kind of cool. Like that was just something that they really went for. So, and the last thing I want to cover with this is the how they used motion capture a lot of the time in this, and they tried to use motion capture for the dinosaurs using ostriches. Which is like, you know, I don't think they actually had an ostrich in there running around, but, you know, they tried to mimic the movement of an ostrich because I guess that's what they needed to use at the time. And I just think that is hilarious and amazing. And here it says that Turok, the animation is flawless. You would think that Iguana had sent a team of motion capture experts back to the Jurassic era to snare the motion data used in this game.
Phenomenal.
It really is, eh? So if anyone wants to check this out, I'm using the Internet Archive to look up these issues. They have a lot. They have most of the Nintendo powers scanned in here and decent quality as well. So you can really zoom in and take a look at the photos and stuff. This is Nintendo Power issue 88 from September of 1996. So I thought that was kind of fun. Okay, Nave, enough of me talking. Let's hear about you. Let's hear about Turok. And let's talk a little bit about your experience playing it over the last, you know, week or so, or a couple weeks since we said we were going to play this game. How'd it go? How was it?
Well, I played the game on the Xbox One port that was made by Night Dive Studios. And whenever I brought this up to you, you were quite surprised. So were you not aware of the plethora of ports? I say plethora as if there's like more than you can count on your hands, but not that many. But...
Well, you know what? Some get 0, so, you know.
Oh, yeah. I imagine my shock when it was Tuork that got ported. I was like, right, exactly. You're kidding me.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. You know what? When you said that, or when you showed me the picture that you were downloading, and I go, wait, I automatically knew that it was. I recognized the screenshot that it was an Xbox that was loading. I'm like, wait a second, it's on Xbox. So like, I immediately searched Game Pass, and I'm like, oh, can I get it now? And I could not, but no, I completely forgot that they re-released this game at all, or any of them. I knew of the GameCube game, which I think is a prequel or sequel to the original couple, but I thought that's where the series ended. So I completely lost track of that over time. So yeah, I would assume, I'll get into my experience with the controls, but I assume the controls felt a lot better on the Xbox, or do they really try to stick it to the same as using the C buttons and all that kind of stuff, or are you using the joysticks?
You do use dual analog. Okay. It's really hard to imagine playing the game with the C sticks. With the C buttons, like I did back in the day as a kid. But the game runs really well, and it doesn't run as well as it's on PC as well. You can buy it there on Steam, and it's on mouse and keyboard. It plays like Counter-Strike. It's actually insane.
Nice.
But yeah, the Xbox version, I assume the PlayStation version and the Switch version, if there is one, they have a lot of different like options that are available to you that I don't remember. Like I remember you can change the blood colors with cheat codes and stuff, but in this game, since it's not limited by the Nintendo 64's hardware, you don't have that fog, like the Silent Hill fog that's 20 feet in front of you.
Oh yeah, you know how many guys just ran out of space at me?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned space. It is funny that you mentioned space because the game was designed with that fog wall in mind, which you can turn on in the options. You can go on and turn on the fog wall so that you can have an authentic experience.
Okay.
With the fog wall off, which it's by default, you can see enemies before they're programmed to be able to see you. Sometimes you can even see enemies spawning. You know how a lot of enemies will fall from the sky and trap you?
The sort of it looks like it looks like they come from a spaceship. They're just sort of zoomed in kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's definitely not designed like that, but it doesn't exactly break the game or anything because it's such a small part of the game. But yeah, it's pretty cool. There's a lot more options. Like you can adjust the FOV and everything. You can.
Oh, nice. Okay.
What else can you do? I don't know. You can keybind everything too. So I guess I'm not sure if you actually can, but if you wanted to put the face buttons as C buttons, I wonder if you could even
Yeah.
do that. I never even considered it.
You know what? That would be the only comparative. I mean, really, like, I mean, I know there's the L and the R button and sure the triggers now and stuff like that on the Xbox controller, but I don't know, man. I tell you right now, like, the first thing I noticed was I am having a hard time controlling this game. Like, I'm just so programmed to the dual stick stuff over the last 20 years that I like the default control I could not use. I had to switch it. So in the N64 version, you only switch the controls left or right-handed. That's the difference. So you either walk with the joystick, and that's the default, and then you're looking around, or sorry, you're walking with the C buttons and you're looking around with the joystick, or you're walking around with the D-pad and looking with the C buttons. So that's what I used because it felt,
Whoa.
yeah, because it felt for I don't know what if it was just like the joystick was giving me problems. My mind was melted with the default controls. I could not do anything. I kept looking down. I kept looking upwards. I could not get my head around it. I was shooting at the sky. I'm like, oh, I have no bullets left. All right, I guess I'm going with the knife. Like, it was just like, I was a mess.
It's really interesting. I guess it's like if it was probably harder because it was half familiar because of the one analog stick. So it's like it'd be better to be completely foreign than just to be half familiar.
Yeah, maybe it was something like that. Yeah, it must have been something like that. Like, somehow it's basically, yeah, if you were to translate it to the Xbox controller, it would be using the face buttons, like you said, as the C buttons, and then walking around with the D-pad, right? So it doesn't sound that bad, but because you're just so used to using the joysticks and how smooth things are, I got used to it after a while, but again, it's just the limitations of the controller and the time, and you can't blame them for making the controls. Like, I think they really tried, because once I got used to what felt more quote unquote familiar to me, if you even want to call it that, I felt okay. I felt all right with it. Some of the traversal and jumping and stuff was a little awkward because you have to jump with the shoulder buttons when I switched the controls, and I don't remember if the default are that way, but I think I was jumping with the R or L. I can't remember which one. So it was a little bit awkward because my hands were kind of cramped a little bit too much. But once I got used to it, I got into the game, man, and I just went for it. And it was like, all right, I'm going to struggle every once in a while. My hands are going to fumble with the controls. But after that, it's going to be all good. and that's what I did. And it was good. I got into those first couple levels, and I had a lot come back to me. I never owned the game myself. It was a friend of mine, and he owned the first two. And again, multiplayer was a big thing when the second one came around. That was definitely something that we played a lot of. But I do remember going to his place a decent amount, especially during summers when school wasn't going on and stuff, and we would sit and play these first few levels a decent amount and over again, take turns, right? I don't know if it just like flushed back into your mind, or if it was like did you have muscle memory for any of this stuff, or was it just like you had to kind of teach yourself again the game, even though you had the Xbox controller, which is nice?
Well, the PC port came out way before the Xbox port. So right. I was playing it on mouse and keyboard, but as soon as I turned it on and walked around for a moment, I was remembering secret pathways to different weapons. Like,
amazing.
You can get that, like the very first little secret pathway that gets you the pistol at the very beginning.
I got that by accident. I was like, oh, cool, sweet, awesome. I did not remember it at all.
I love the level design. I think we can talk about that a little bit later. But as a kid, it's funny you said that you played the first 3 levels over and over again, because that was my experience as well. I had no idea how to progress any further than the 3rd level.
Yeah.
And even that took me a very long time, because so as you move through the level, there are different like zones in each level. And so there's like the outside jungle area, and the underwater has its own like environment and music. And once you go into caves, it has its own environment and music and stuff. And once I would go into the cave and see the little monsters jumping around and the music gets scarier, I would always stop playing. Like, I didn't want to go into the cave. I thought the cave was way too scary. So I was
Yeah,
that
fair enough.
young, like I couldn't do it. I had to
Yeah,
watch.
fair enough.
I had to watch either my dad or my stepdad get through. It was probably my dad because I don't know if
Yeah,
my stepdad played games, but the as soon as I got through that cave the first time, it was just I just blew the doors open. It was so fun.
yeah. Um, actually, I want to talk about that because you're talking about the caves, the different stages and stuff. The level design was actually something that I did not comprehend at the time, and you're not thinking about that stuff when you're younger, right? That's never anything that's really top of mind. You're, oh, this is fun, this is cool. Like that's really as far as it goes. And now with so
Yeah.
much experience with games and comparing the old ones to new ones and all that type of stuff, like it's a very ambitious way to make a first person shooter. I think that's what I felt. I felt like it was unique, and every level felt pretty big. And I
Yeah.
was surprised by that. I did not remember that. Like just the first one alone, I was like, oh, I'm still in the first area. I'm still here. Like this is cool. Like I thought, 15 minutes. All right, I'll move on and whatever. But I'm walking around this place for half an hour. I'm going to the next stage, and I'm kind of backtracking a tiny bit to kind of remember if I missed anything or whatever. And like you can do all that. You can sort of like semi free roam a lot of these areas, and I thought that was great. It was awesome. I don't know how you felt about it.
The branching paths in the levels are unbelievable, and the way that the game is set up, it encourages exploration, which is really interesting because it is like a jungle setting. So it is something that a kid would want to explore, minus the
Right.
cave. And so the
Apparently.
what I really like about the design of the environment is that there's always something everywhere you decide to go, like in every
Right.
little nook and every cranny. And if you're really keen-eyed and really good at video games, then like you understand like video games. You can find a whole bunch of different secret passages and secret walls, or you can find little cubby holes that you can crawl through. Like
Yes, I found a couple of those. Yeah.
there's so much you can find, and it is almost always actively engaging. Now the level design is very old, so I mean, you if you're used to Skyrim exits where you get through the little part that you're doing and then it just spits you out where you came back where you entered from, there's like almost none of that. There's occasionally you get one and it's wonderful, but sometimes some of these levels have really elaborate secret pathways and then you have to walk all the way back, and I'm like, I wish. And you got like 250 health for it, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I have tech armor, so I mean, I kind of wish I didn't come all the way down here.
Yeah, it's there's I didn't look anything up. I remember there was codes and all these secret areas, and I guess you call them stages or levels, or just secret regions or whatever. But like I did not remember where any of that stuff was, and stumbling upon it felt like I was a kid again, replaying this game or games like this for the first time. Like I really thought that was really cool. Exactly what you're saying, and how like it's really interesting. They really went out of their way to make that and encourage the exploration, like you said. And sure, you might have to like backtrack your way to an area you were just at, but every once in a while, like depending on what area and what level, sometimes a couple more enemies will zoom down. So at least it gives you something to do. You're not just sort of
Yeah,
walking through an empty hallway or whatever, or an empty field or whatever it is. But for the most part, I was actually, not for the most part, I 100% was stumbling upon everything that I found. And every once in a while, I was like, wait, did I pass that tree already? It looks kind of the same as the last one. Like, it's just sort of the old graphic technology where it's like, oh, all the trees look the same, or oh, the ground always looks the same, or whatever. But I still felt like the fact that you could just kind of go wherever you want and things branched off, like you mentioned, it felt rewarding. Like they rewarded you for wandering, and that's great.
yeah,
And just like a few bullets is enough, or a little bit of health. I like those little boss battles too, or big boss battles, I guess you can call them. I found those to be fun, a good way to sort of break things up as well, because yeah, I think the human enemies early on especially are kind of samey. They're kind of the same. One guy's got a pistol, the next guy's got an axe, and that guy
yeah.
maybe has a shotgun or whatever, right? I always found the dinosaur stuff and the boss stuff fun. I thought that was the best part. So I don't know if any of that felt the same to you, or if you just kind of took it all the same, or I don't know. What did you think?
I loved almost all of the enemy design. And while we're talking about the bosses, I was streaming on Twitch for my co-host Philip. Him and his wife were watching me just play a little bit of Tuork because I'm always talking about it, but he hasn't played it in like 12, 13 years or something. And I was like, "Do you remember what the first boss is?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay, well, make sure your wife is watching and ask her right now. In this dinosaur game where you play as this Native American, what do you think the first boss is?" And I don't know, a pterodactyl or something with a rocket
Right.
launcher. And I jump down, and then in the center platform, when it rises up, a Hummer comes out, and it's like I never forget that as a kid. Like even
That's
as a
true.
kid, I was like, "What is that car doing in this game?"
Like the ideas are just all over the place in a good way, I think, like it's
Yeah.
so wild. It's so wacky. While also trying to be serious, like it's kind of a dark game, but they're also having fun with it. And, um, you know, it's like, it's so crazy that was considered such a violent game. Like it's not that it's not violent because there's blood, and like you said, you can put codes in that change the blood color, and there's so many different crazy guns and all of that type of stuff. But Nintendo was very like, we need this to be family friendly with our consoles, and the N64 is a family and a friend party console with Mario Party and games like that. And here come the dinosaur and guns and killer Hummers and like
Yeah.
it's just like but I you know what when I thought about it before I booted up the game for the first time, that it was I remember this being like, oh, this is the violent game that we're playing at the time. It
Yeah.
felt like I was playing an adult game, and I was like, it can't be that bad. I mean, and then I pull out the pistol and I shoot a guy, and he's like, oh, and he's like grabbing his neck and the blood's spurting out. And I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, it's not even just that. It's like he's grabbing his neck and he's like, oh, and he's falling to the ground. I remember when I was a kid, my dad watching me play this game, and I've already had this game for like 4 or 5 months, so the damage is done.
Yeah.
But
At this point,
so
it's yeah.
he watched me shoot someone and when they grabbed their neck and the blood's shooting out, he immediately put his hand on my shoulder and he's just watching the TV screen and he's like, "I don't think you should be playing this game." And
Yeah.
I was like, "What? I've been playing this game. I don't know what you want me to do." I didn't, because I mean, even as a kid, I don't know. I've always been able to like differentiate real life and
Yeah.
video games. So it's because I
Yeah.
grew up
Yeah.
with them. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that wasn't a person to me. That was just something on the TV.
It's crazy because the guy doesn't just like fall to the ground, or the dinosaur doesn't just like drop to the ground when you shoot it. Like what I mentioned before with the whole like ostrich thing and how they tried to use all these different ways to try and get motion capture in the game. Like it shows that they tried
Oh yeah.
really hard to make this a really engaging game, and I honestly think that they did it. Like I really do think that they did it. It was great, man. It was awesome. I wish I finished the game. I didn't have time to finish the whole thing, but I had such a blast playing it again. So
I have a little notepad when I was playing. I was writing stuff down, and the very first thing I wrote down was the death animations are the best in the business. Like I couldn't, like with my adult eyes looking at these animations from when I was like what 4 or 5. I don't know. I was really small. Like this is pretty crazy. When I was playing the like Mario Party and stuff, I'm like watching the dinosaur writhe around on the ground. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. The contrast in the games that we were playing at the same time is just insane. Even now, like we mentioned really briefly before we hit record about Fall Guys and that being big over the last few years, and
Yeah.
in 2022 it's gone free to play, so more people are playing it. It's like I've been playing Fall Guys this week and Turok, and like even just that alone is a huge contrast, and having a blast playing both of them. And I'm just like, oh yeah, like it's just funny how the contrast really works and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I guess thanks, man, for bringing this up as a game that that we were going to play, because I had a really good time. Did you feel like, did it feel rewarding? Did it feel good to revisit it and everything? Like it was well worth the revisiting. And what's your main sort of, not main takeaway, but I guess handful of sort of notes to take away from it?
Well, this is first-person shooter kind of at its purest form. I would say, like, if you are someone who's been enjoying Doom Eternal or Doom 2016, Wolfenstein, it's the return, the Shadow Warrior, the return of old school shooting, you're gonna be someone who absolutely adores Turok. Now, you may want to use a strategy guide because some of the keys are in very obtuse areas,
That's
and
very true. That's very true.
that is my biggest takeaway from the game. My biggest nitpick, at least, is that
Right.
you can mess up and then end up in a part of a level where you can't go back and get a key that you missed. So you have to get into the level and go all the way back through the level again to get that key. And another thing is that some of these sound effects in this game like live in my head rent free. Like I know everyone's just got random sound effects that happen when they're just going about their day and they just see something or they pick something up and something happens in their brain, especially gamers. And whenever you pick up the power Doritos or the wow, every time you pick up one, it's like I think about that all the time, and it's just I'll forget where it came from, and then I'll come back and play Tuork.
Yes, it's one of the. And you know what? Actually, it's really funny that you mentioned that because to me, it's for this game, it wasn't the sound. It wasn't the sound effect of that. Although I did forget about that sound, and then when I first picked up the first group that I ran into, I was like, oh. Yes, that sound. It was one of those triggers. Now it's definitely going to be one of those things like you just mentioned. I'm going to hear it in my head next year sometime and go like, what was that from again? But for me, it was the music in the first few levels and the sort of like drums in the background, and every once in a while you heard a bird or you heard like a screech or whatever from like a raptor in the background, and I was just like, is it coming after me? But no, it's just the music. Like it's just
no, I love every time whenever I would hear the monkey when I first started playing it, I just start doing it back. It's just like, oh man, I love it.
That was good.
I'm the best at random sounds. I don't know, and I don't pick and choose. It's just whichever ones my brain wants. But those monkeys,
it's out of your control.
I love those hits.
That's hilarious. Now that we're talking about the music and the sound effects and stuff, that's another thing that I think is really great in this. And researching this game over the last week or so to prep for the episode and sort of how the game got made and all that stuff, it's amazing that one of the things, and it seems like this happens with a lot of N64 games, sadly, is that the music is always, not always, but often enough, one of the things that they have to cut a little bit off of because there's just not enough power in the cartridge or the console. But here, I still think that they made it work really well. So even though that is something they were limited by, they really made sure that it worked really well. And I mean, that's tough to do. You're limited by the technology, and this early in the console as well, they really did a good job. I think it makes a big difference. It's very impressive that this game was out within the first calendar year of the N64. I think that's amazing.
I'm glad you brought up the music and the limitations because I'm not sure if you were aware, but Tuork released on the PC, I think, a few years later.
Yeah.
And the PC port had improved audio and improved music. And one of the things that you can toggle between on the Xbox or the next generation version ports is the PC and the Nintendo 64 music. And I played and you can just pause and do it at any moment. So the music, I think you could find it online. I know for sure the Nintendo 64 music's on YouTube because I listen to it all the time. I have the playlist saved. But the PC version, it's like it sounds like a cover band, or like how you have an Ocarina of Time, but it's like an orchestra playing. It's like that's not the right music, but I mean I recognize the patterns.
Yeah, like it's nice, it's great, it's well done, but it's still not. It's not scratching that perfect itch, right? Like it's not quite there.
Yeah. The main thing, so the very first song in the game that you hear in the jungle, it has this drum beat that's like boom, 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 boom. And every time I think about that all the time, by the way, like all the time. But that song on the PC version, it has like one missing drum beat randomly, like just one drum beat that's not there. And what it reminds me of is, I don't know if you're aware of like Queen, Under Pressure, and then the Vanilla Ice, Ice Ice Baby, and it's just like there's one extra note. It's a completely different thing. That's what it
Yeah.
feels like. It almost.
Yeah,
It's
that's a
like,
really good comparison. That's hilarious. That's so great. I did not expect to have such a like jiving, jamming time playing this game, and I really did like almost the entire time. It's a high point, I think, which I did not expect. Anything else in this game that we may have missed along the way?
I was well. There's one huge point. I'm glad it's saving the best for last for sure. But
Yes, let's do
to
it.
tie it together with the sound, the weapons.
Yes.
One of the more fun things that I realized when I was playing it as an adult was that a lot of the sound effects from the weapons are just reused and pitch shifted or slowed down, and it's like really fun. Like I love little things like that. Like whenever you listen to like did you know facts about games, and it's like did you know that the voice of this enemy is just reversed and then slowed down from this enemy, and
Right.
it's like
Right.
oh man, the piranha plant is just a Goomba slowed down. I didn't know that, but I like if you switch really fast between like the grenade launcher and the rocket launcher, and then the whatever's after that, and then the chronoceptor. It's like and it's like very obvious now that I'm an adult, but as a kid, like
That's
it was
amazing.
awesome.
It's like all the different tones that you're going to hear in a Christopher Nolan movie trailer. Wow, 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 wow. All the loud horn or loud noises and stuff. Yeah, that's really funny. I'm going to have to boot it back up and check that because as much as I noticed that like, stuff can be similar and that's just the way that the games were again, but it is fun to notice that stuff. I like that.
Yeah, that chronoceptor sounds like an atomic bomb when you pull it
It
out.
really does. It really does. It's a crazy sound. That's yeah. We didn't talk about it too much, but the weapons are a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of variety there. Even early on, like even though you only get a pistol and a couple different shotgun bullets, and I think the assault rifle or machine gun, I can't remember what they call it.
Yeah.
Even the bow and arrow is fun, and the different types of things you can do with that. Like
Yeah, the weapon variety is unreal. I guess pun intended. I guess, but
yeah.
it adopts from what is it Doom. It adopts from that school of the
Yep.
weapons have specific upgrades. Like there's a better shotgun. Assault rifle is just a better pistol. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
so some weapons use the same weapon or ammo type, but it's like why would you ever use the pistol if you had an assault rifle? But you have a laser pistol, you have a laser rifle, and then later on
Right.
you get a charged up laser rifle. But the charged up laser rifle, while it does way more damage, it has way less output. So there
Yeah.
are opportunities where if you're fighting a big guy, you want to use the charge gun, and vice versa. It's
Yeah,
really
it's true. It's
fun.
something that you get out of games now a lot more, whether it's a hand to hand type game or something with some sort of crazy or even realistic weapons. It's like they do force you to change between them and play different. You don't have to just be like, oh, I love the pistol, let's say, or I love the knife. It's like at a certain point you need to switch it up, and the variety, whether you know it or not, is there on purpose, and it's working, right? You're
Yeah.
not often going way back into your weapon wheel. You're shifting between like probably about 3 or 4 weapons is kind of like what my routine was, I guess. But like in
Yeah.
chunks, it's like, oh, the first 3, oh, and then the next 3, and then the next 2. Like that's kind of how it went, and I like that because I was able to approach things differently, especially with the bosses.
And do you know what the most powerful weapon is in the game?
I
Not besides
don't
the
actually.
chronoceptor. It's the bow and arrow.
Is it
And
really?
the bow and arrow is the most powerful weapon in the game. And I mentioned I was streaming this for my co-host. Well, eventually someone from the chat jumped in. Which, by the way, I was streaming it under the wrong Tuork. I was streaming it under the Xbox 360 Tuork, not the Nintendo 64 one. So I messed that all up. But he brought it to my attention that if you pull back on the bow and wait for
Yep.
about 2 seconds, the front of the arrow will shimmer for like 15 or 20 frames. Like you
Yes.
have a
I did
window
notice
where
that.
you can let go of the arrow right then, and it will one shot everything. It will one shot
Really?
everything.
Oh, see, I never used it against anything that seemed too tough or difficult or whatever. I used it every
Yeah.
once in a while because I just thought it was fun, and I recognize that little shimmer thing. It's sort of like it's a timing thing. It's like, oh, you got the perfect strength, it's the perfect pullback or whatever. I did notice that, but I didn't realize it was that strong. That's crazy.
I think it doesn't work on robots, but I think the implication is that it's like that. This is headshot. This is perfect full headshot timing.
Yeah.
And so, but even the giant golems that shoot fireballs, one shot, boom, they're down.
Man, now really I gotta go back and try that.
You have, I just set my controller down and I was like, there's no possible way that I've played this game since I was a baby. And I didn't know that you could do this.
I didn't realize it was that strong. I figured, okay, that increases the strength. I could sort of gather that, but the fact that it's like literally the ultimate weapon. I mean, I think that's awesome. That's great. Makes you feel like the most primitive weapon is potentially the best, and that's awesome. I love that.
Especially, it's like it makes sense too because I guess Tuork would be the most efficient with a bow and arrow from where he came from. It's really cool. And it's like 1997. This game came out, right? And it's like that reminds me of Gears of War that came out in like 2006, 2007. Like that's something that happens in like introducing a timing element in the middle of a chaotic shooting range, essentially, with the active reloads in that one. It was very similar to active reloads, and it made so much sense to be on a bow and arrow.
But none of that's the kind of stuff that you have to have a game like this do something innovative like that. And whether people realize it or not at the time, whether this was the first or not either, it doesn't really matter. If you do it well, even if it's not the first one, if you do it well and effectively and it's fun, it's going to get recognized in the industry, and they're going to get those ideas and they're going to start permeating through other games. And for sure, I don't know that Gears of War, got their ideas or something from Tuork specifically, but it does, like 10 years prior, it made its way in a very similar way. Like you said, I think that's a really cool point. That's true. That's awesome. All right, Nave, I really appreciate it, man. This has been a lot of fun. It was great to replay the game and talk about it. Anyone who hasn't played it, you played the Xbox version. If you can't get your hands on an N64, the N64 version, sounds like it's a great way to revisit it.
Yep, it's on Xbox and PlayStation for sure, and Steam. And Turok 2 is also available on all of those platforms. There's like Star Wars, Episode 1 Racer, and Shadow Man, and there's so much random stuff that's just available. Like I ported.
Yeah, I have the Episode 1 Racer re-release on my Switch. It was great to play. That was a fun replay. We'll get to that game again too. We'll get to more Turok. Until that time, Nave, thanks for coming on, man. Where can everybody find your good stuff on the interwebs?
We are Gaming Together, a cooperative podcast on all your podcast catchers, and YouTube sometimes. We neglect that side, unfortunately. On Twitch, or on Twitter, well, we are on Twitch, but on Twitter, we are at Game Together Pod, and you can find our link there.
An awesome discussion with an awesome guest. Thank you, Nave, for joining me once again. Check out their stuff too. Such a great show out there. If you want to follow our show and support our show, as I mentioned off the top, patreon.com/remember64show. You can get episodes early. You can grab some swag. We have a sweet sticker up for sale. And you can also hear about the other things that I am playing and watching that are not Nintendo 64 related. Email us anytime at remember64show@gmail.com. Find more videos, photos, fun collecting shenanigans on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and where the cool kids are apparently these days, on TikTok. All of those under the same handle at remember64show. Also, keep an eye on all those platforms as well. We will be putting out what we're going to be playing next, put out nerd questions of the day where we want to hear from you, and a whole lot more. So until next time, stay pixelated, my friends.